my name is Erica and welcome to my channel. This is my Rama round 2 wrap up. It's actually the third one from Rama, so there are 2 previous videos. This one is the last 3 days of Rama. So day 4, I didn't read much at all. I read maybe, I don't know, 20 pages? Maybe? I don't even know if I read that much. And then yesterday, which I think was day 5, sounds right in my head. I feel like there were 6 days ago. Might have been 7. I'm not sure. Anyway, yesterday, I actually finished my second book of Rama, which completed another challenge. So altogether, I finished 2 books and I completed 3 challenges: middle grade, blue on the cover, and fantasy. But that's it. I didn't finish any of the books after that. So this book, when I finished, and she's very glary. There we go. Isn't she pretty? It's called Layla, the Black Tulip by Little Cloutier, I think. It's from the Girls of Many Lands series by American Girl. It's considered intermediate fiction, so middle grade. And this one takes place about Turkey. The whole Girls of Many Lands series, I guess, was something I had in the American Girl catalog at some point. Now, personally, I've been getting an American Girl catalog since I was 7 or 8 when they made them, when they started making American Girl. I have never heard of this series because I totally would have picked it up years ago because I've read the American Girl books, the ones for the dolls, like for Molly and for Samantha. And when I was younger, I actually just handed them off to my aunt because my aunt wants to keep them. Because I just had no desire to read them again. Anyway, so this one is The Girls of Many Lands, and there's I think there's 10 different ones. They're all different. They take place in a different country, and then in a different time period. So it's basically just telling you about the culture of that particular area through the eyes of a girl, and through a girl who's living through it or whatever, who's 12 or so. So in this case, this girl, her name's Leilana, and she's 12, and she was in Turkey in 1720. She lives in Georgia. She's from Georgia, and then she ends up in Istanbul throughout the course of the book. Basically, her father is a painter, and he's this lovely man, and she has a brother and then 2 twin brothers. I think that's right. And her mother all live together. And when their father's there, they always have money. Everything's fine. The family's doing really well. They're not super affluent or anything, but they're doing well. And as a kid, she learns how to garden and everything, and she's always had this really green thumb, specifically with tulips. She can cultivate tulips. And in her backyard, she has this field of tulips, and her and her brother take to digging up bulbs and then trying to cross migrate them to make different colors and stuff. Leaves kind of suddenly, and they don't know what happens to him. He gets commissioned to go somewhere, and then he just never comes back. And basically, he's left them, but they're not entirely convinced that he's actually left them. It just seems like he's just not there anymore. So in this time period, I guess, which I don't know. I know nothing about Turkey whatsoever, aside from, or even that area, aside from an international culture week we had when I was in 6th grade, where I think I might have read something about Turkey. It's one of those. I know nothing about Turkey, or the culture or any of it. So this is all just new to me. So I'm not sure. Although reading in the back, it had a little at the end of the book in this. It has 5 or 6 pages or so that are about the actual historical elements of what's in the story. And given that, it seems like it's pretty accurate. I don't know. If you know anything about Turkey and I'm saying any of this stuff and it sounds weird, let me know. So apparently in this time period, people would travel to the smaller towns that weren't as affluent, and maybe needed some money, and they would offer to purchase their daughters to groom them to be brides for princes and whatever in Istanbul. So they come to Leilana's house, and her mother is just like, hell no, you don't get to have my kid. And and the people leave or whatever, and Leilana had heard them talking and realized they were talking about her, and she's 12 years old again, so she's just young, and the mother doesn't want her. She doesn't want to lose any of her kids. But Leilana, being she's the oldest in the family, I think. I think her brother may be a year younger than her. And then the twins are young. She she and her brother keep doing they're like selling their tulips, because tulips are becoming a thing. Like, people are starting to like really love tulips. This is apparently when the Dutch like went and got the tulips and then started planting them, and then holy tulips. So and it's really interesting. It's funny because the reason why I picked this up at Panera, which is where I got it, it's actually a book crossing book, so it was a free book in a basket at Panera, was because it was black tulip, and she was looking at me and she was so pretty, and I picked it up, and then when I started reading it, she was talking about tulips. Tulips are my favorite flower, so I was just like, ooh, thinks about tulips. So she goes to the market. Her and her brother like keep finding like odd jobs and stuff to try to help their mother so that they can keep providing for the family, but they're fast running out of money. And so she goes to the market, and she essentially sells herself to these men. And they give her a few coins, and they tell her to meet them there if she wants to come or whatever. And then so she goes home, and she puts the coins underneath her mom's pillow with a note that says she'll be fine, that she's doing this for the family. And then she leaves a note for her brother to take care of her mother and the kids. And then she heads off with a couple tulip bulbs, something that her dad gave her, like some paintbrushes, because her dad was a painter and she learned how to paint. And like that's it. Like, she takes nothing else with her, and she goes on to these people, and they take her and throw her in with a whole bunch of other girls, and she realizes very quickly that although they said they were going to bring them to be princesses, essentially, that what they are slaves, and she has no interest in being somebody's slave. And she's very I think it's interesting, the character itself. She was very empowered for a 12-year-old. And definitely just thinking about the experience that she's being put through just as a character. She's very empowered, and she's very much like sure of herself that she doesn't want to be a slave, that she doesn't think that's right, that she wasn't raised that way. And she essentially keeps getting herself in trouble because she kind of talks back a little bit, and not in a way that's like disrespectful, just in a way that's unexpected for these girls. A lot of this weird place where they basically just have all these girls that they keep dressing up and trying to sell to people, and nobody's buying her because she's got an attitude, basically, because she isn't prancing around all happy about things, and she doesn't really want to leave where she is because she doesn't know where else she's going to end up. And yeah, so she is at like a market, and this guy walks up to her and is talking to her about paintings, I think it was, and flowers and whatever. And he quotes some poetry to her, and she recognizes it and tells him, and he says, "Oh, you know of poets?" And then he decides that she's very charming, and he hands her this like special coin and tells her to keep it, and that and just tells her to keep it, and that it'll bring her luck or whatever. And she's kind of discouraged; she doesn't know what's going to happen to her. And then a man shows up the next day and wants to purchase her, and they haggle until they come to a thing, and then they take her to the palace. In most of the book, it's this giant journey of getting to Istanbul in the first place. It's like a few chapters dedicated to that, and then this little hostel, and then she ends up in a palace, and she's in like the big Ottoman Empire palaces, which I think I've heard of those before. The big Turkish like Ottoman Empire, so it's those big, gorgeous like marble, and like 5 million women and one guy and like whatever. She ends basically like a servant in their quarters, but she is working with a mistress of flowers, so she gets to work with flowers all the time because that's like her special talent, is that she can deal with tulips. And then it's kind of like an adventure from there, how like her life changes from being in this palace, and the people that she meets, she makes some friends in there, and that's interesting. There's a whole portion where she's very insecure that she doesn't have as much money to purchase things as other people, so she doesn't like have pretty clothes to wear to like one of the festivals they go to. And then all the girls like pitch in and give her pieces, and then she feels very loved and welcomed. And I thought that was kind of an interesting thing to throw in there, that it's okay to ask for help. It's really, I don't know how, it was a good book. It wasn't the worst book I've ever read. I don't believe I will continue this series or anything. I don't really want to read anymore. I felt like it was lacking something. I don't know what it was though. Like, cool, really nice family aspect and friends and stuff that's in here that I thought was really nice. And I do like that the end of the book on the last, I don't know, say like it might even be like, it's probably like 3 or 4 pages, is actually historical. So it shows like pictures and stuff and explains the history of the actual area and stuff. So that's interesting. I did think the one thing I like took away from this that I thought was really interesting, Enux, I think is how you say it. She was talking about that they were kind of like non-gendered people, and they were actually in the palaces. The women were cared for by these men that were called Enochs that were very effeminate in the way they dressed. They dressed in like the colors and such that women would wear. They wear the same type of like high heels and stuff like that. And she keeps talking about them as that they're like they're not quite a man, but they're not really a woman. And I thought that was really weird. And in just it's so weird for current events and such, and the way that people identify and describe themselves and stuff. I just thought it was interesting that they were basically back in the 1720 in Istanbul, there were these men that were considered basically like just non-gendered. Just that's it. They were enough. This is what they did. And though they were men, they were not viewed as men. They were viewed as these servants to the women who lived in the palace. And thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys had a really fun time reading Rama. I know I did. I really like that readathon. I just think it's really fun and it's relaxed, and I like the way the sprints are done and everything. It was fun. Although I didn't get to participate in as many sprints as I usually do because I kept reading at like off times. But yeah, it's really fun and I like it. And if you participate in Read-A-Rama as well, how did you do? Did you read a lot of books? Did you get a lot of challenges done? Did you get all the challenges you wanted done? Yeah, and like this video. If you liked it, subscribe to see more. Please leave a comment down below if you have any questions or anything like that, and I will see you in the next one.